Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience Podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience Podcast, where our aim and goal is to help leaders pivot into their next. My name is Alex Seal, and I've had the joy and the pleasure for working for the world's most caring company for the last 23 years. And over that period of time, I've had a chance to learn a lot of great things, learn about business, learn about helping and leading other people. And through those experiences, we have developed this company called TPE. And I'm not doing this alone. I have the opportunity to work with some really great coaches. And actually, on today's episode, this is a special episode where we're going to be all recording together. As you guys may recall, we did this several months ago, and I really enjoyed the episode, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And so we decided to do it again. And I'm going to open up the floor for the coaches to introduce themselves to you guys once more.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure being here, Alex. My name is Naftali Franco. I've been with the Pivot Experience for a little bit over a year and a half now. I'm super passionate about helping people, being able to connect with other individuals, different backgrounds, and be able to pursue their goals that they have and be able to help them achieve the things that they want for their lives.
Yes, I'm Ashley Allison. I have the privilege of working at TPE for as well as a year and a half. I guess I specialize in focusing on younger entry-level leaders and having them connect within their leadership experience and help them propel forward in their leadership journey.
And my name is Giovanna Roach. I have been working, I guess I was the first employee besides Alex, who is the owner or the founder for the Pivot Experience. I have actually been coaching for almost 3 years and coaching with TPE for a little over a year and a half. When you say you specialize, I guess my specialty is TDP applicants, LDP applicants, operator applicants, helping them with that interview process and really digging in to find their why. Why do they want to be a part of the Chick-fil-A brand? So that's kind of my focus. I do have some other clients though who are not TDP, LDP, or operator clients, and I love those clients as well. Just helping them really find their fit in their organization, in their role, and really pushing their role to what's next. I mean, I guess I can kick it off and say pivot into their next, since we are the Pivot Experience. So I'm excited to be on this podcast today and really excited to hang out with these other coaches who I also call my awesome friends.
Yeah. And I think, and just before we move on from introductions, there's another coach here by the name of Abram. He is not able to join us today because he had a family emergency. So Abram, if you're listening, you're in our thoughts and prayers for sure for the things that you have going on. And so on today's episode, we're going to try to approach a topic that isn't always a fun topic to talk about, but it's the reality of some of our businesses that you guys are listening may be experiencing. We're going to be talking about navigating a down year as it relates to sales and profits, and how can you as a leader continue to add value to your organization and really overcome those challenges that exist in your restaurants. And in my 23 years, and Giovanna, you might be able to echo this. Actually, Ashley and Neff, you guys can probably echo this as well. We haven't really seen many years of downswings in terms of sales percentages. Really after COVID, things seem to be spiking up a little bit and then starting to level off. And I think for us being so accustomed to every year running 5 to 10 to 15% increases, this is something that's foreign to all of us. This is something that we're all having to adjust ourselves and literally having to pivot on some things that we had planned to do in our organization, and things that we were pursuing. We had to change our lenses because the business is starting to demand that we do something different. And so today we want to just talk about a few things that involve how do you notice that, what are some indicators that you can see that your business is on a downward decline, and what are some of the things that you can do that are within your control to be able to manage those things. And I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. Have you, this is something we've never really seen before in our business, correct?
It's rough. It's a rough world out there. That's what I say right now. Like, it's been pretty. I think one thing that I've been thinking about a lot when it comes to like this topic of like navigating the storm, like, navigating different changes in business. I've been thinking a lot about how we have to lead in the here and now and not like the dream of what we want it to be. Because, always our hopes and our dreams are just like, man, if sales were just there, we could do this, we could do that. We could, offer this benefit, but we actually have to accept where we are in reality of where we're at and really push towards what are the things that truly matter in these seasons. So I think it's a really good season too, to just evaluate your business as a whole and go, okay, what are the things that like make us us? We don't want to get rid of those. But we want to really focus on pushing ourselves to evaluate the business and what really matters. And I think that is kind of the times that we're in.
No, I would definitely agree. Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess I agree. I think is the first year that we don't see like a 10% increase year over year. And I think when you're so used to having those increases, it's so much easier to motivate a team, especially a team of young individuals. Hey, like, we're killing it, guys. We have a 10% sales increase year over year. Keep up the great work. But now we're seeing 1%, 2%, on a good day, 3%. And it's like those numbers might not be as appealing it is than the larger numbers of sales increase. So definitely a change of how, even I would say, my way of motivating the team, it looks different nowadays as well. But I would definitely agree with what Giovanna says, like learning to get back to the basics, right? I think she mentioned like cutting down costs, like what is your store's priority of, benefits or even things that you would like to splurge on, but also choose like the guest team behavior, getting back to the basics and making sure like you're checking the basics box before you go see on Facebook or a Facebook group, oh, that looks cool, and try to implement it everything at once, right? Because I know I can be guilty of that when, I was a younger leader. Everything looks cool. And there is a season where you can try a million things at once. But in these seasons, like, you have to really be picky about what you want to invest in at your restaurant.
No, I definitely think you hit the nail on the head, and I'll get to you, Neff. I know it looked like you had something you want to say, but it's easy to communicate when things are going good. Like when the good times are rolling, the notifications going, you're looking at your phone, you see all green on every metric that you normally look at. Now you're starting to see a healthy amount of red, and you're apprehensive and wanting to communicate, that we aren't excelling at a rate that we used to. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Neff.
Yeah, I think it's hard to come to terms with what reality is when it's a different reality that we used to experience for several years, year after year. And I think we can sometimes be hopeful and say, well, like, let's hope we do this, or let's hope we hit this metric, or let's hope for this. But hope is never a good strategy for success. And so I think we have to really analyze our business and, like Javon said, choose the things that make up what your business should be or what you want it to be, and invest in those things and learn to be okay with the results that we're going to get because of the season that we're in, but have a good plan on the things that you want to invest in whenever the time comes, whenever we have those sales, when those things in business start going up.
Yeah, and so I think I hear a theme between all the answers, and I think we'll start there. Like, if you do notice a decline, and I think everybody said analyze their business, and so whatever means you use to do that, what are some of the things that you hold fast to in the business that are non-negotiables, as far as like, okay, we'll cut back on X, Y, and Z, but we can't stop doing A, B, and C?
Ashley, I saw your face perk up. I know you want to answer that question.
No, I mean, I think that's can be hard depending on like the different location. And I know every store, whether it's a restaurant or another business, every team's going to be different, right? I think one thing that we have seen a true benefit of a return on our investment is investing in those team events, like those times away from the restaurant where the team gets to know each other. Like even I'll put myself out there. Like I had the opportunity to go to one of our teams. Every month we put on a birthday dinner, right? And so taking time away from the restaurant, getting to have that face-to-face conversation, pour into people not only their passions inside the restaurant, but also outside the restaurant, you see that return on investment because they're going to be more bought into your vision to help support you on shift. And then also too, they're going to take that feedback and tell their friends. So then you get new great team members on your team who are bought into that vision of yours, and they're going to be the best selling point you can have. It's like team members who know the vision, executing the vision. And so I think that's one thing that I will have to say, like the last thing to go is like just the team, that face-to-face interaction as well. Another thing that I think we have seen a large return on investment is providing free health care to our team. There's lots of moms and dads out there who didn't have that as a benefit before. And we have seen this flu is going crazy right now. COVID numbers are spiking up. So like they have the opportunity to get that medicine that they need for their team. And I think that's just truly, brings joy to my heart as a leader. So I think those two things, if I'm talking about for my team members, I would not like to cut.
Well, I'm gonna give a plug on that. So direct to care is what she's talking about. And I think I met Josh Alquist is the guy who is like the rep for direct to care, but it's a company that provides free doctor's visits for your team. Now it's not free. Obviously, the owner is paying a fee. We're paying a fee for those doctor's visits, but I've also seen I actually got our 3-month usage numbers, and I did the math on it today, and it's paid for itself. But I'm giving a plug for direct to care because I think it's something that literally every single team member that you have can use. And so, but I'm gonna kind of go a little bit off that too, Ashley. I was thinking about just like making sure that you use like your purpose, your mission, your employer brand statement, your values, whatever those are, as your filter for the things that you continue. And so it's kind of that start, stop, keep doing that you evaluate, especially in these times. But I mean, I would always say in any business, like let the core of who you are as a business, your values, your purpose, your mission, be the filter for the things that you start, stop, and keep doing. Don't let times dictate who you want to be in the future. Like business, Simon Sinek, one of my favorite, authors, podcasters, video people, whatever you want to call them, leadership gurus, I guess is what they say. Like he talks about the infinite game of business, and like we can't always make decisions just based on today and tomorrow and the next day. Like we have to be looking at what the infinite game looks like in business, because it is an infinite game. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Like we're going to look back 20 years from now and just want to be able to say that we stayed true to who we were, even in the hard times. So I think taking that purpose statement, that vision, that mission, those values, and really saying like, is this who we are? Is this who we want to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And are the decisions we're making today going to affect that 100%? And so I think just always staying true to who you want to be.
Yeah, I think most definitely when you talk about the organization that we serve outside of TPE, it talks about, our shared vision is being the world's most caring company. And I love the fact that you guys led with people-driven initiatives. We could have jumped right into the nuts and bolts of business, right? The things the numbers, but you guys prioritize people, in which I think that also speaks to the fact that we always say we're in the people business, not the chicken business. And so I love the fact that you guys brought that up first. And I guess I was going to just piggyback on how you guys prioritize direct to care. Like they may not be something that is the most exciting, but when you need it, it is something that's important. It is something that is a priority, and so I definitely love that.
Yeah.
Neff, did you have anything to add there? No.
Not for the director care.
Okay, no, just generally to in terms of what would you?
I think something sometimes we can easily skip out on or say, hey, we'll push back is development of team members or leadership development. I think it's something easy to say, well, like it's an investment, so we're just not going to do it right now. But that's the investment you need to make so that when the downtime is over and we're busy, you have people there to support the incoming growth that's coming into your business. And so I think it's super important that we don't look at those things as a burden or as an expense that we can't afford when those are the things that are going to get us to the next level.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think even too, as you grow your team become more productive. So you get that return on investment with that as well.
Yeah. No, I love that because I think one of the things that I was going to, I guess, speak to, and I think this is going to open up a broader conversation is, when sales are lower, you have less budget for labor, right? You have less hours to allocate towards wages. You have less that you can forward into that bucket. And so I think making sure that you prioritize development and you prioritize, the core incentives to keep the team engaged. Because one of the things I've always thought about as it relates to what we do at Chick-fil-A is typically we're asking our team members to do more work than they would at a competitor or a different lane, a different type of business, but with the same, comparable wages or comparable style of work. And a lot of the things that I felt like that would help us keep team members engaged was, we do all of the fun stuff, all the frills, all the bells and whistles. But as you have to kind of pull back a little bit, not saying that you're not doing any of those things at all, but when you start to pull back a little bit and you're still expecting the team member to do work and you're providing less team members around them to do the work. So so if we continue to prioritize the things that you guys are bringing up, I definitely think that would be that would help keep them encouraged in doing the work, even though there's less people around them. So I love that. Any thoughts around labor management through a down season? Since I know that, and for you guys listening, I'll say maybe internally we might have at once upon a time had some difference of opinion, to say the least. But I do believe that we all have a really good perspective on labor. So I would love to hear you guys. How are y'all navigating labor, and maybe what are some of the tools that you guys are using to help guide you in that area of labor?
I'm gonna let Neff speak up on this question because I've trained him in our labor ways, and now he's taken over labor. So you speak to that, Neff.
I mean, I'm sure many stores have very different tools that they use for labor, and I think every store, they have people that just love to be in the sheets, making different formulas and all these things. And I think it's good for you to really analyze all the numbers that go into labor. And I think sometimes we don't take time to really dig in where those hours are going, where the money's going. And what often happens is we end up, most of the time, operations is the first one to kind of get cut. We're like, oh, we just got to cut some hours. And the team feels it. And you just talk to, there's less people, like it's more stressful. And I don't think that's always got to be the first option for us to reach into, but it is when we don't have a clear vision of where our labor is going. We don't know fully where we're spending money on. And so I think just really digging down and looking how much overhead you have, how much training you have going on, what non-operational hours you have for the directors that you have, or whatever leadership positions you have in your business. What is the return on investment in those hours that you're giving those people? I think there's just a lot of analyzing that somebody's got to do in the business in order to know where you're going to go, where you're headed, what your average wage is. Is that average wage going to take you to where you want to go financially? What does the result look like? If you're not happy with the result, what are the changes that we can make? What are the controllable things that we can control? whether that's cutting overtime, whether that's making sure we have more part-time staff than full-time staff. There's a lot of things that are in our control, but there's also things that are not in our control. And I think when you know where every dollar is going and when it comes to labor, it's easy to control those controllables. But when you don't have a clear picture of what you're spending, it becomes really difficult, and it can be really overwhelming when you are getting a result that you're not happy with and you don't even know how to get it down. And so I think having a clear picture has given us clarity in where we need to go, what we need to do, where we need to schedule, the things that we can't control, what do we need to change to be able to reach the goal that we have. And it's not this overwhelming thing. It's now like we can see 3 months from now where we're going to be, and we know that we're going to be okay with that result.
No, that's a great response, and I guess I want to just zoom in a little bit more in this, but I don't know if this is too micro, but getting familiar with where the decreases are happening in your business is very important. And on top of that, for whoever is doing your scheduling, for them to understand that, I'll just say this, most traditional schedule makers, you guys know this, they probably make the schedule out in core shifts. You got open to 2 to close, you got your swing 11 to 7, and then you got your 5 to close, right? And typically, a lot of times, schedulers are bringing in everybody at the same time. They're all getting off at the same time. They're all, that same cadence of scheduling. And I think that in this particular season, you really got to start to drill into, do you need everybody? I'm just using this as an example. Do you need everybody in the store from 11 to 12 that you need for 12 to 1? Do you have an opportunity to stagger people into the shift and then stagger them out rather than everybody getting off at 2? Is it slower between 1 and 2 than it is from 12 to 1? And so sometimes these seasons require you to really hone in on exactly where your decreases are coming from. In some instances, your sales volume might be the same for lunch, but then your breakfast is weaker or your afternoon is weaker. And so when you're communicating these things, particularly depending on where you are in the organization, right? For us, I think we sit at the top of the organization. And so we're looking at those things. How well are you communicating exactly where those labor dollars need to be spent and where they need to be infused into the business? But I think you guys can speak to this. Y'all just recently went through a remodel or reopening, and the flow of traffic in your restaurant in terms of guest transaction count could be different than what it was before you guys closed. And so listening to your night leadership and then really bridging an opportunity for them to learn about the business. True story, real example. I had a leader approach me yesterday or day before yesterday. And I'm gonna just give you a real example. They asked for a moment to talk. I said, sure, let's have a conversation. You see, and they asked for, said, hey, can we get one more person between 7 and 8? Because it was really rough on the inside, and I think we just need another person. I could have taken that information if I was in a rush. So if I didn't, I said, oh sure, I just add another person. And then I told them, I said, well, let's look at the numbers. Okay. If you had issues with managing dining room, let's see how many transactions happened during that time. And once we had a conversation about the reality of, hey, I understand what you felt, right? But then let's look at the numbers, and then let's look at how many people that were scheduled. Is it a matter of enough people being scheduled or how they're being managed? And I think so. There's a lot of opportunities when you're getting that feedback from other leaders and other managers. And if you're dialed into what's going on in your business, you can really, because I truly believe, well, we'll see if this is coming to fruition, but I believe that moment with me and that leader was a good learning. It's a teachable moment for her. She because we had a great conversation about, well, what were you doing with the drivers, because the drivers only had X amount of orders during that time. Well, what were you doing with these individuals, because we only had 17 transactions on the inside, and you had these people in place. Why couldn't you get that done given these parameters? And I think a lot of times, particularly in our business, we are not so number forward. Us at the top, we're entrenched in it, but as you continue to go further down the hierarchy, that intimacy with the numbers starts to fade, and so they're more geared towards running things off of emotion. And so in these seasons, you're going to find times where your knowledge in particular, where as it relates to the numbers in the business, you're going to get an opportunity to really bridge those gaps. And then plus, once you get past this season, they're going to be more valuable because they're going to understand a whole lot more about the business. And so when it does increase, they'll be able to say, hey, I know we did X amount of transactions, 6 weeks ago from this hour, but that has grown by X%. And so now it justifies us being able to spend in that area. And so I definitely think that there is some benefit, even though we don't want to hear sales being down as a benefit, but I think it challenges us as higher leadership to really dig in deeper with our other leaders to be able to teach and coach them on certain things.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience, where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.
Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of things to say about labor, Neff. I did tell Neff, and Neff and I work together. Like, my job as operating partner in our organization is I come up with a yearly projection, a quarterly projection, a monthly projection, a daily projection. That is where my level stops, is I come up with that daily projection. Our schedulers, who are our GMs at our restaurants, and their job is to dig into the daily hourly projection. And so, a lot of times, which they're getting so much better at, I've even heard them communicate this to me the other day, is like, hey, we just need to, we don't need to add labor. We just need to move it. We need to move it from this hour to this hour. And so, I clearly communicated that to them of hey, I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability of projecting out the year, the quarter, the month. And we have a spreadsheet that literally has all of them on there, and they know each week, how much we're going to do in sales. And then their job is to figure out how to schedule it. Then we've even taught our team leaders, one of my favorite sayings to them is, don't be a news reporter, be a newsmaker. Don't come to report to me how you feel about your shift today. You come make the news and tell me, hey, Miss Giovanna, we killed that hour. We ran 140 productivity and we didn't even feel it. It was awesome. And so teaching your team members to understand the numbers that you're expecting them to know, which for us as a shift leader, if you feel that your shift is chaotic, your first thing to do is let's look at productivity to see if that was actually true. Because if you're feeling that it was chaotic and you look back and your productivity wasn't the goal that you were supposed to hit, then now okay, let me evaluate where I had my people, where could I have moved some labor from one area to another? Did I set myself up for success with a good game plan for my shift? That's even part of it, is they have they've created a game plan for the day with a setup sheet. And they're like, oh my goodness, I have a brand new team member pushing out food. That was probably why we felt backed up in the drive-through. And so getting them to understand it so that then they can come to you and be newsmakers and say, hey, our productivity was here, which is way over the goal. I think we could have added a pusher. And that then is they're growing as leaders as well and understanding where we need to shift and bend labor.
Yeah. I think having clarity in what the benchmark is going to drive better results in the restaurant. It's going to get all the leaders to be on the same page about where we're going, and it removes that feeling part out of it. Like if we understand that a team member should be able to take 50 orders, 40 orders, whatever that number may be, then it's easy to know, okay, well, if I did 150 transactions, that probably calls for 3 people, 3 order takers. But when there's not clarity in what the benchmark is, what the output is for every position or person, it becomes really difficult to be able to know when you really need more stuff versus when you just lacked good management skills of those people under you.
And I'm glad you said that, Neff. And I was going to steal Giovanna's phrase that she uses all the time: is clear is kind, right? And so I think you guys are both talking about just having clarity in the results that you're expecting. Because again, when things are up, I want to say you should always have clarity, right? And maybe this down season is forcing a lot of us to get to those moments of clarity to where we have these defined metrics. But I think it's really a good teaching tool. Again, going back to that same example, because a few things popped up from this conversation, right? It was some of the conversation that me and that leader was having. I started talking to her about production from the morning lunchtime to the evening time. And, it was we don't have the talent like you guys have during the day, right? We don't have that same level of talent. And then that brings up a whole nother set of questions. It's like, well, do we have the right people? In this season, do we have the people who understand the mission, understand the objective, and then understand their role in making that happen? And so a lot of times when you are put in these positions to have these conversations based on the down season, you can then uncover some other things that might have been hiding in the business while things are going well and sales are up. You might have some low performing team members that you may not have realized had you not been going through the season. And in your effort to become more clear and your effort to make those metrics more apparent, you'll maybe start to discover some other things that you need to address in the business. And so go ahead, Giovanna.
I've said this phrase forever. It's like sales covers a multitude of sins. So in those seasons where it's like sales are booming and you even know like a day that you have just really great sales, I'm like, man, those sales covered a multitude of sins. Like even our guests, they forgive us more when they see that we're busier. Like it literally fixes a lot of problems, but it also covers up a lot of issues that you didn't know you had, because you're like, oh, well, profit's still there. It's still, it's within the range of what I wanted it to be. And I'll give a good story on this, a short story, but a good story. So I was reviewing our end of month FCR like 2 days ago or 3 days ago when we got it back. And we had a remodel, and we've been open for almost 3 months since our remodel, and didn't realize that we hadn't pushed back on our dumpsters. We have 2 dumpsters, and they were getting picked up 6 times a week. We definitely did not need our second dumpster picked up 6 times a week. And I was like, oh my goodness, we didn't scale back on that. And so I called and reduced the amount and I even reduced it at our other location, because we don't have all of our sales haven't come back from the remodel. And so that right there was $800. But had we had the sales, and even though we still didn't need that many dumpster pickups, I probably wouldn't have even noticed it. I'd have been like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like it's, $600, $800, more than normal. But because we don't have the sales, I'm literally analyzing every single line item and going, okay, we just reduced the amount of towels that we're getting because we are getting way too many towels. And when the towel man shows up, we still have towels. And so it's little bitty things that you're like, oh, that's not even that big of a deal. Well, correct. When you have a lot of sales, it isn't a big deal if you have towels left over, or that your dumpster got picked up 3 more times than it should have. But without those sales, it's a time, right now, I am literally looking at every line item. And really, when you're thinking about these downtimes, there's 2 ways to get out of the downtime. 1, control cost so that you can turn a higher profit, or 2, grow sales. And so I even think we might be able to kind of shift into this, Alex. I don't know, but
that's where I was going.
I don't know if like, I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that's helping us with our marketing strategy. And it's like, we haven't had to really flex our marketing muscles, I would say, in the last 10 to 15 years. And so now that we haven't really had to flex our marketing muscles, like we called it atrophied, because, you know, when you don't work out, that's what your muscles do, is they atrophy. And so we can't be upset when it's not working the way we think it should be, because we haven't had to do a lot of that in several years. And so when I say several years, I'm like, the brand itself that we work for did a lot of the legwork for us, and we didn't have to do that much. And so now, like, we're having to even go into analyzing, like, how are we marketing our business? Who are we marketing it to? What do they want? What are the people that we're trying to market to want? What sales avenues do they want? I mean, that's a whole nother thing to think about, is like, right now in our business, like, the sales channels that are growing are those on-demand sales, because we're in that 20 to 40 range of people who want to eat Chick-fil-A. And what do they want? They want food where they want it, when they want it, how they want it. And so I think that this is as much as this season is almost a little annoying, like, it drives me crazy to like look at my phone and it's like red all the way down. I'm like, it actually is making me take a magnifying glass onto our business. And I think it's going to really benefit us 2 years from now. I keep talking to my owner, and I'm like, hey, like, just give me just give me a little bit of time. I mean, I'm working on some things that are going to really help, like, pivot us into our next, for sure, in the business world. But I mean, I think these times, as annoying as they are and as like hard as it is to watch, like, it not be as easy as it was before, like, the most rewarding things don't come easy. And so I think the times where, you know, it was really easy and it was really fun, and like our team was killing it, and you would look at everything and everything's green, and like there's 10% growth, and like, and that was fun. But I think I'm going to be even more excited to look a year from now and like have done really hard work to get to that. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
don't know if any of that resonates with any of y'all, but that's just where my mind's at. Even on the hard days, I'm going, okay, like, I know I'm in the infinite game, and like, I see that it's going to get better.
Yeah. And I think, like, too, like, I think, like, in our stores, it's like you had a team of leaders who came into the business when it's growing, flourishing, sales are going crazy. And then it's like, that's how they learned, that's how they were first introduced. And hey, this is how you lead a shift with this amount of people, this sales volume, this flexibility of being able to float super easily. And it's like, now we have to kind of retrain them, like, hey, this is how you be even more flexible, get your team to be even more productive. And I think also, too, like, even that cost, like, I think, like, you know, one of our stores is known for breaking more things than the other store. And it's like, dude, all the leaders understand the little costs, and I say little because some of them can be big. Like, why does a lemonade bowl cost so much? But it's like, how do they understand those costs? So, like, when we're not being a good steward of what's entrusted to us and just throwing around things and thinking that, oh, it's a nickel a dime. No, it's not. And those little things add up day after day. But I think that's a growing season for our team. And like you said, Giovanna, this season of growing and getting that magnifying glass will help you in the future, because your team only is going to be sharper from this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with both of you guys' sentiment. And I'll just start, responding to Giovanna's first. Like, I think you said a bunch. You said a lot, so I'm gonna do my best to articulate my thoughts here. I think
Sometimes, Alex, when I get excited, it just keeps coming out, and I'm like, okay, wait, I have to say that too, because I know that, like, I feel like there are so many people right now that are in this season, like and I see so much discouragement, like, and it's hard to get up and get out of bed and want to go to work when you're discouraged, right?
100%.
And so that's why, I'm sorry, it just like kept shooting out, just bubbling out of me,
No need to no need to apologize. Very, very good perspective. One of the things you said, and I'll just translate it the way I heard it, is understanding your new and growing customer base and what their preferences are is going to be huge for you if you're going to be competitive in this space and you're going to see sales come back. I think it's safe to say the things that we traditionally did over the last 10 to 15 years aren't yielding the same increases that they used to. Actually, I'll just add this comment in on this as well. We had a meeting today with another operator to come in and evaluate some stuff with us, and he mentioned that, you know, at once upon a time, malls were more profitable than freestanders, and that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around. Like, nowadays they're closing malls because they're not profitable, because the momentum has shifted from the mall dining experience to the freestanding experience. And now when you take that same thought and you look at on demand, and thinking about on demand, whether you do it yourself or you leverage a third party entity like a DoorDash or Uber Eats, how well are you executing at those items to help you grow the sales where you are getting them at? You know, a lot of times we think, well, I've got people out there, they're trained, they know what to do, and the drive-thru is just not busy. Well, you don't realize that, you know, a lot of your clientele might be young mothers who, you know, have to pick up their kids after school, and they're trying to rush to get to dance practice or soccer practice, and curbside might be the most appealing thing for them because it limits the amount of movement that they need to do, and they can get out quicker. How well are you prioritizing that? Or if you have people who, and for us, and I'll just speak to our business a little bit, we're really trying to create a habit around the on-demand economy, because we realize that even people who may not, that you might think it may not be a fiscal responsible purchase to go do DoorDash versus going through the drive-through, they're still doing it anyway. Because most of us here have read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about what the brain psychologically is trying to find the path of least resistance in everything that you're doing, right? And so if getting Chick-fil-A involves me putting my keys in my car and then getting dressed and getting presentable and waiting in that long line that we're known to having, versus just picking this up right here, well, my phone, for those of you who are listening, just picking my phone up and it can be at my doorstep within the next 25 minutes or so, I think your brain psychologically is going to, even if it costs a little bit more, you're going to leverage that sales channel over doing drive-through. And so, or going to the restaurant. And I can't tell you, for those of you who have maybe done delivery firsthand, some of the places we've gone to, especially on the residential end, I don't think they're getting in our drive-throughs the way they come to the door. You know what I mean? They're not going to get in their car and show up in our drive-through the way they open the door sometimes. And plus, adding in the fact that I think I just said this today, a pre-COVID world, putting food at the doorstep might get you shut down from the health department if you did that. You know what I mean? Before COVID came around. Now COVID made that commonplace. And so there's so many different things that play into the role of where customers are deciding to spend their dollars. I think we all have to learn to be competitive in what customer preferences are.
Well, just thinking, like, kind of, Alex, my brain is going to like Amazon. Like, what made Amazon so successful? Like, I mean, I've been buying from Amazon for a really long time. And you know, prior to, like, when it wasn't very popular to have a subscription, you know, you pay $130 something and to get your stuff. But I'm like, what has Amazon done better than any company that I've ever seen or that I know of, or that anybody knows of, is that they're like, literally order something, it'll be here by 5 o'clock. Like, that's what people want. I mean, I even buy snacks for my kids' lunches on Amazon. Why? Because I'm a time is of the essence. Like, I don't have a ton of time my grocery orders, all pick up. I go to the grocery store, like, go inside. Maybe once every month, or I don't go. I just order it online and go either drive through and pick it up, and so I just think we have to start, like, in these times, this is where, like, the most creativity, like, happens, is because you got to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Like, what do the people want?
Yeah. And I think to your point about, like, getting back to the marketing, like, I know, you know, Chick-fil-A is known for, like, being like a family store, like a family restaurant, right? But I think, like, what's becoming more popular, like, in society is, like, spending that FaceTime with your children. Like Alex mentioned, like, you know, taking them to dance, or even just, like, hanging out in the house, playing board games, things like that. And so I think providing that parent the opportunity to, like, hey, we can bring food that our team members are, through third parties to your doorstep to give you the time to like spend with your kids or get caught up on tours or things like that, or even for those business people who have meetings and things like that. I think it, that benefits them so much more. So I think just challenging all the stores out there just to really look into those sales channels.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that we're going to talk about, this has been a great conversation. We had a bunch on the board to talk about. Maybe we've talked about 2 of 20 things that we've got listed here, and that's kind of how it goes. But I think the last thing I want to talk about, we've mentioned about labor. We've talked about the on-demand sales channel. But I guess what's going to be common from the majority of people listening to this is that at restaurant experience. And I want to kind of reference a conversation that I had recently, which that podcast episode should be out before this one, so you guys will get a chance to hear this. But I had a chance to talk to a gentleman by the name of Vance Morrison, and he was talking about prioritizing creating more value in the experience, and that's going to yield a return in your organization. And I remember a long time ago, Dan Cathy was speaking at what was then Seminar, but it's now called Next. Kind of dating myself a little bit by saying Seminar a little bit, but he was talking about second mile service, and he was talking about, instead of offering a discount on what you serve, increase the value in the experience that your customers get. And my conversation with Vance, he told me that, through different seasons of his life, he had different levels of employment, and he ended up creating his own business, and he has a carpet cleaning business. And he started talking to me through some of the core things that they do in his business that just pay dividends to them in terms of growth, right? He told me that the experience starts when the cleaning van shows up to the property. They don't park in their driveway because, God forbid, one of his vans has an oil leak and he doesn't want to damage that person's driveway. So he's not going to, he makes sure every driver, when you go to do a service at a person's house, you park on the street. Each driver pulls out a mat, put it on the front door, to show the customer that they're going to wipe their feet off before they enter their property. A lot of little psychological things that he was doing there just to continue to create the value add inside of his business. Every new customer that they had, he gives them a little box with what he called it, maybe this memento and a card with his cell phone number on it, just to give to that customer, to give them a small gift from them and a personal touch of his cell phone number that he's giving out. Now, granted, we're not going to give our cell phone numbers out in what we do, but he told me, he said that, that little gift and that card might cost me $5 to give to the customers, but I've seen a 27% increase in the sales that we do in particular neighborhoods just through adding those small little value adds and really looking at and combing every step of the transaction. And so when we think about our business, from when the customer drives onto the parking lot, to when they enter the restaurant, to when they're interacting with the person at the front counter, to the person who's working in dining room, to the experience that they have when they leave, to the experience they have in the restroom, to every little piece of the organization, how dialed in are we into every customer facing component that we offer? And so I think, for you, those of you who are listening, like, challenge you to really sit back and observe what's going on in your business. I think I heard someone from the support center talking, challenging operators, sit in your dining room and really observe the experience, observe what your team members do, and then offer feedback and critique, and seeing where can you elevate the service. A lot of times we might not have to spend $5 per customer. Certainly we don't want to do that, but you already have the labor in place. It might just be, how is that labor behaving while customers are there during the downtime? Like, a lot of times we depend on the dining room person to handle all second mile service. Well, if you're behind the counter and you're not waiting on anybody, can you go out there and add to that? Can you add to creating emotional connections with the guest with the customer while they're sitting there? Can you assist in making sure that the facility is as clean as it can be, so it's ready for a customer to come in? Can you add a interval in the restroom cleaning cadence to make sure that restroom is top notch? And I guess I'm gonna get a little personalized here in 2 ways. One, I remember when I first got hired, we used to have these thing called the VCR. Those of you might not know what a VCR is, but all of our training tapes and everything was on these big old blocks called the VHS cassettes. And during orientation, there was a lot of people who talked about the cleanliness of the restroom, right? When you thought about clean restrooms, it was synonymous with Chick-fil-A. Now, I'm not trying to give away where you guys live or where we live, but there's a very large entity very close to you guys that I would think maybe has taken that title. Not saying from y'all particularly, but a lot of people say, well, I'm stopping at Buc-ee's because I know the restroom's clean. And it's like, well, do we have that same reputation? I'm sure you guys' restrooms are clean. I'm not saying it's not. I know, not saying that at all. But do you have a high level of trust with your customer base to that they know every time they come to the parking lot, there's nothing going to be there? I just talked to somebody about this the other day. I was at I did a live podcast recording with some other people, and I was like, no one's never going to come in and rant and rave about how clean a parking lot is. They will say something when it's excessively dirty, though, or when it's something there. And I think it's those little things. You know, all of our marketing campaigns talk about the little things that we do for the guests. But do we think about the little things that we do in our operation that really pay a positive impact into the organization? Our operator. You know, sometimes we put up things around the store on the glass, and we might take the publication off, and that little piece of tape that you use to tape that up there might be there, right? It might be there for a while. And so we're so used to just kind of saying we're going to focus on the business, and that's kind of stuff jumps out to him. And my question would be why isn't it jumping out to us? We're there every day. You know, you're in the restaurant every day managing what's going on and seeing what's happening, and you're ultimately responsible for the guest experience. Why aren't we taking those little bit of time to peel that piece of tape off? I watched my operator today. He was outside. He was at the flagpole, and we have some a little bit of grass and plants right there. He's picking up stuff out of the planted area, and it's like, why isn't everybody doing that? People used to have stories about Dan Cathy. If they went to Walmart with Dan Cathy and he's walking from his car to the door, he's picking up trash along the way, showing that example of servantship. And I think that ultimately
he did that at Trilith when I went. That was like a year ago. He was at Trilith, which is his town, and he was walking through the street picking up trash. I mean he's going to continue to do it.
But think about this though. He has to be. I don't know what his net worth is, but I mean, if you are in the Chick-fil-A world, you know who a person with the last name Cathy got to have something going on, and still to have the humility to understand that everything matters. And I think just to put a wrap this conversation up, and of course you guys can chime in on this after I'm done, but it's like, as a leader in your organization, are you looking at every little thing? We started this conversation in saying analyzing your business, and that was really from a top level view conversation, right? Are you drilling into the numbers? Are you understanding where you're at? But also, in addition to that, are you drilling into what's going on in the restaurant? Again, I love your saying. Like I forget it sometimes, but you know, those sales do hide a multitude of sins. You will excuse the way the dining room looks sometimes if we just did a day part and we're up 20%. Like it's like, okay, we'll get to it. We're gonna get it back in shape, but are you more inclined to address that faster, being that it's slower? You know, it has your gears changed in those areas. And so I think this conversation is really a challenge to each of you guys are listening. If you are experiencing a downswing in your business, the challenge is for you to really get into the weeds and understand, what are your team members doing? What are your leaders prioritizing, and how are they viewing the business?
Yeah, I want to say too, just a little bit to that, Alex, because this is something that we've actually been working on. Is like that value proposition for the guests. Like now more than ever, people want what they pay for, and they want more than what they pay for. I mean, we've even seen that as like taste of food now is number one thing that drives overall satisfaction for a guest. Whereas 3 years ago, it was speed of service. They wanted it faster, and that was what, you know, drove the transaction for the guest. But I mean, I even am looking at it through the lens of right now, and as sad as this is, you know, and you know, as hard as it is for me to admit, it's like we've kept some team members on our team who don't smile. And I'm like, that's part of what we do at Chick-fil-A is smiling. Like that's called core 4. There's something called core 4. It's part of the core 4. But like, we've just allowed it because it's like, well, it's just one person. Like, it's not, you know, it's not everybody. And so, and I think, you know, we've actually let some people go recently for not doing the core four. Like you just, and ultimately I'm like, do you want to be in customer experience? Like that's my question is like, if you don't like customers, this is not a place for you to work. But I think we've like overlooked it because the sales have just been there. And it's like, well, you know, 90% of our team smiles. And so I think that's good enough. And I'm like, no, that's not good enough. I remember when I started at Chick-fil-A, I worked in a mall 25 years ago or 24 years ago. And there was only 20 employees, by the way. So I think at our most there was 20. I'm talking 14 was probably normal. And that was not at one time, by the way. There was like 4 or 5 at one time. But if my operator saw me not smiling, I'm straight going down. Like he would call it straight out. He'd be like, somebody's having a bad day and it looks like it's you. And we're going to smile today. And so like, I think we've kind of come to accept it. And with COVID, I think it was because the mask covered their face. And it's like, we had to learn how to re-smile and all those things. And it's like, I'm just not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow our business to not have smiling team members because that's what we say we want. And that is what our guest wants. That's what our customer wants. And so, and you know, most people that come to Chick-fil-A, they're like, I went into Verizon last week to get one of our cell phones fixed. And it was for the store. And so I had, you know, my name tag on and he's like, I just need to ask you a question. He was a manager there. He's like, where do you find those people that smile all the time? And I started talking to him and then he said, well, do you do something else? And I was like, well, yeah, you know, I've started this coaching business with friends. He's like, oh, totally get that. That's where this is coming from. Cause I was starting to coach him on his team members. I was like, you see this team member? I'm not really sure that they want to be here today. But to me, like we've allowed things in the times that were really good that really weren't who we are. And I'm looking at Neff right now and some of our other leaders. I'm like, y'all, if Susie does not smile every day, Susie can't be here. Like, and we're willing to talk to her. And like, if it's just one bad day or something like that, it's okay. But I think we have just kind of allowed it because we're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. No, it is that big of a deal that we need team members to do the core four. And so I think that value proposition, like in this season, I mean, I told y'all I have a magnifying glass right now. In this season, I think like it's good for us to evaluate our business like that because ultimately, we want every single guest that comes into our restaurants to have the best experience. And I don't care if you're a carpet cleaning company, Amazon, Kroger, Walmart, H-E-B, Buc-ee's, whatever it is. Like, we're in the customer experience world. And so we need to do our best to wow our guests every single day. And we have to not accept less than that.
Absolutely. So first of all, just thank all you guys for the contribution to today's episode. Really encouraged by you guys' stories, you guys' perspectives, and I hope you guys out there who are listening hear us out here. You know, I'll just keep echoing it. High sales just hit a lot of things that we probably should have always been working on. You know, and now we have the opportunity to get our businesses in a place to where we know they're going to be more aligned with what we know who we are and what we want to represent. And so I'm just going to end it there. I think we might be due a part 2. It depends on how we can wrestle these schedules together. But no, most definitely. Say what?
I said Neff gonna be like part 20.
Yeah, for real. But no, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Pivot Experience. Find us on Instagram. Also, we offer a free monthly event called Lead Better that we host at the end of the month. So you can go to tpenow.com and check that out. You can sign up. It's 100% free. Also, our discovery calls are free as well. So if you heard anything here that we were talking about and it resonated with you and you wanted some additional help in your organization, or you feel like your leadership team could spend some more time with either one of us to help you get into the next season in your business, we would love to have a conversation with you guys to help you navigate through the challenges that you might have. We do offer coaching in English and in Spanish. And so if you have some team members on your team, we have some availability there. And if we don't have the availability currently, we can definitely put you on the waiting list to get you in with a coach that will help you guys get to the next season in your life. And so again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, guys, peace.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.